ओम सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। ओम सदाशिवसमारंभां शंकराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। सर्ववेदान्तसिद्धान्त गोचरं तमगोचरं गोविन्दं परमानन्दं Sadgurum Pranatosmyaham. So we were seeing in Vivek Chudamani the 14th section, the student having asked the question, the 7 questions that the student asked, O Nama Bandhaha Kathamesha Agataha, from what is bondage, from where has it come, Katham Pratishthasya Katham Vimokshaha, how is it sustained and how do I become free from it? Ko asav anatma paramak atma, what is the not self and what is the supreme self? And Tayor Viveka Katham Etad Uchyatam. Please tell me the difference between these two. So then the teacher replied with the glory of self-effort, that why one has to put self-effort and in what direction the self-effort has to be put. And he came to the glory of the knowledge of the self, which is the intuitive understanding that I am Brahman. Now he goes to the next aspect, which is the direct experience. So many times we have an objection that is raised or a counter thought that is there in the minds of many people, that the scriptures, what they talk is only theory. But you see here in Vivek Chudamani, before the teacher even answers the question, he emphasizes on self-effort, then he emphasizes on the means of liberation is knowledge, the beauty of that knowledge, the glory of that knowledge, and then now he comes to the direct experience, that how as a spiritual science, it is not just knowing theories or understanding theories and models about our own personality, but it is the ability to withdraw and experience the true self. So especially in the domain of spirituality, there is so much more to practice and to experience, and theory is very less actually. We will see how it works now. You see 15th section, verse number 62. Nagacchati vina panam vyadhiraushadha shabdataha vina parokshanubhavam brahma shabdairna muchyate. Now earlier, if you remember in verse number 61, it was said that one who is bit by the snake of ignorance needs the antivenom, which is Brahmagyan. One may read in the same way, one who is bit by the ignorance of the self needs the antidote. How much ever one may study a scripture, chant mantras, take any general medicine, it will not work. In that context, this continues ahead. He says that one has to drink that medicine. Even if that antivenom medicine is given, by just holding it, by just having it with oneself, it will not cure the person. One has to drink. So, na gacchati vina panam. Just by saying medicine, 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 it will not go. Or by holding the medicine, the poison doesn't go out of the system. So what has to be done? One has to consume. In the same way, he says, vina aparoksha anubhavam. Brahma shabdairna muchyate. Simply saying Brahman, 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 or even repeating I am Brahman, Or a lot of people say Shivoham, Shivoham. Just a few days back, somebody came and said, when we say Shivoham, Shivoham, suppose I don't like Lord Shiva. Can I still say Shivoham, Shivoham? What is the meaning of saying that? Now the point there is the person has not understood the implication of Shivoham. Shivoham is not saying I am Shiva as Lord Shiva. Shivoham is referring to Shiva as consciousness, that state of consciousness, and Aham is my true nature. And my true nature is pure consciousness. I am not the body, mind, intellect. That is the meaning of Shivoham. Now if the person goes on repeating Shivoham, 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 but doesn't have the understanding of what Shivoham means, what it indicates, and then how that Shivoham leads to that state of oneness, that is Aparoksha Anubhava. Just the word will do nothing. It will not remove the ignorance. So here the word used is Vina Aparoksha Anubhavam. Anubhav is a very nice word. Experience. Bhava means to be. Anu means continuously. Anubhav means to continuously experience in a specific way. To be in a specific way. Vina Aparoksha Anubhavam. So what is the meaning of Aparoksha? There are three aspects here. One is called Pratyaksha, what we see directly through our senses. What is perceptible to us, that is called Pratyaksha. So this computer is there, the chair is there, the table is there, the whole world out there is perceptible through my senses. So that is called Pratyaksha. The valid means of knowledge is our senses, and we gain the knowledge of the world outside. What is not visible to the senses but is inferred by the mind based on the perception. For example, I see the smoke far away, but I don't see the fire. But I infer that there must be a fire somewhere because there is a smoke which I am able to see. So my perception is of the effect, but I am not perceiving the cause, but I am inferring the cause based on perception. So in the same way, many examples. We get up in the morning and it must have rained. I mean, the ground is wet. So we infer it must have rained. So based on the perception, we are able to infer something which is not perceptible. So that is the quality of the mind. This self is not available for both these. It is not an object which can be perceived by the senses, nor is it an inference of the mind. Because the capability in the mind to function is because of the self. And also it is that it is not something which is tangible, which can just be inferred. It is that infinite consciousness, all pervasive. So neither Pratyaksha nor Paroksha, both of them use a medium. One uses the medium of the senses, other uses the medium of senses and mind both. So this knowledge is called mediate knowledge, the knowledge which rises by using a medium. Aparoksha means immediate knowledge, which is neither Pratyaksha nor Paroksha, but it is immediate, where I don't use a medium. So to know myself as I am, to know that I am, I don't need any other medium. Suppose we go into a dark room. To see the objects in that room, we need the medium, which is the light has to be there, the eyes must be functioning, and I should know. I should be able to put on the light and then I see the objects. So there is a medium involved. Then the knowledge of the objects in that room will rise. But to know who I am, to know myself, I don't need any light. I am. That's an immediate knowledge. So Aparoksha Anubhav means to have the immediate knowledge of who I am as I am. Today we have only mediate knowledge. We know about ourselves only through some association of the body, So we say, I am a human, I am a man, I am a woman, I am tall, I am dark, I am old, I am young, all that. Through the medium of the mind, then we say, I am happy, I am sad, I am angry. Through the intellect, I am a believer, I am a non-believer, I am a capitalist, I am a socialist. Any. So the intellectual value systems, ideologies, all that. Through that, I know myself. But if I remove all these mediums, in deep sleep, I don't know who I am. And hence, to know oneself immediately, without any medium, which is actually happening even right now. I am, I am, I am. I feel the presence of my personality, myself. I am. At no point will we experience I am not. Body, mind, intellect will come and go, but I am will never become I am not. That I am, that aham, is the aparoksha anubhav. So it is vina aparoksha anubhav, brahma shabdena muchyate. If I simply repeat Brahman, 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 or I am aham brahmasmi, or shivoham, shivoham, by mere repetition, I will not understand. So then should we not contemplate? Now, in contemplation, we are not merely repeating. It is not just a mantra where we have to do japa and repeat. It is consciously lifting the mind to that state where we say that I am not the body, mind, intellect, I am pure consciousness. That steady contemplation, which is followed after Manan and Shravan. Shravan and Manan has to be done, listening, reflection, and then steady contemplation happens, where I have learned to withdraw the mind fully. And with that withdrawn mind, I am contemplating on Brahman. So it is not just simply saying Brahman. So it is not also to misunderstand that we should not say Aham Brahmasmi or Shivoham, but it has to be done in the right way to get the right experience. So, Vina Aparokshanubhavam Brahma Shabdairna Muchyate. So in this commentary, last paragraph Gurudev has written, intellectual appreciation is the way to reach truth, and a full subjective appreciation of the self is the goal. So intellectual appreciation has to definitely be there so that I know that what is the meaning of Aham Brahmasmi. How can I be Brahman? Why am I not this Jiva? Proper intellectual clarity, followed by withdrawal of the mind and steady contemplation. So the experience or apprehension of the self, that is the goal. One should not stop with just intellectual study, nor should one not study and just repeat in ignorance, I am Brahman, I am Brahman. Liberation from our delusions can come only when they have ended in pure knowledge. Darkness can end only in the presence of light. So that pure knowledge arises with clarity and with the self-effort. What was said earlier, two sections, self-effort and glory of self-knowledge. So that is the means to experience this aparoksha anubhav, this immediate experience. And this immediate experience is very interesting. See, pratyaksha and paroksha, what I see and what I infer is very limited. It will end at a point in time. So that smoke which I see ends. At some point it will just end. Even the things in the world that I see, as long as the senses are functioning, I see. When the senses are not functioning properly, I don't see. Or the objects in the world themselves, they perish. But his immediate experience never goes. I will always feel I am, I am, I am, I am, I am. Aparoksha anubhav it is. Not only that, if I'm always feeling I am, then why I'm not realizing it? Because my attention is not on that. My attention is on the medium. So my attention is on all the descriptions that the medium provides. Forgetting the true self, whatever the medium is providing, I'm associated with that, with the senses, with the body, with the mind. So though the immediate experience is there even here and now, aparoksha anubhav means here and now, every moment. I am still not able to completely comprehend it, experience it, only because the mind is turned outside. Hence, the next verse says that how one has to withdraw. To the extent I am able to withdraw the mind, to that extent my contemplation will be steady and I will experience the absolute truth, where the world disappears fully. See the next verse. Akritva drishya vilayam ajñātvā tattvamatmanaha brahma shabdai kuto muktihi ukti matra phalairnanam. He says akritva drishya vilayam. Without dissolving the scene, ajñātva tattvamatmanaha, and without knowing the nature of the self, Brahma Shabdai Kuto Mukti, how can one just keeps, how can one just say Brahman, Brahman and feel that I will be liberated? Ukti Matra Phalainunam, that person will only get the benefit of saying it or chanting it. Beyond that, nothing more. So 2 points very important given here. To have that Aparoksha Anubhav, 2 points given here are Akritva Drishya Vilayam. Without dissolving the world, meaning without withdrawing the mind from the world outside. Truly spiritual effort in this context of knowing the self depends on this only, success of how much I can withdraw the mind. If you remember the fourfold qualifications, Vivek, Vairagya, Shatka Sampatti, Mumukshutva, they all are actually fourfold qualifications to train our mind to be able to withdraw. As long as there is some attachment, some fascination, some pleasure seeking, the mind goes outside, it will be difficult to keep that mind in contemplation. That's why the intense mumukshutvam or intense vairagya, it was emphasized that these two are very, very crucial. And then bhakti, the feeling with which I want to know the self, that I don't want anything else, I want to know the self, that intense seeking, that will help the mind to withdraw. See, we are talking about Uttam Adhikari here. Many times we balance our life, we live in the world outside, we have duties, we enjoy certain pleasures, we have achievements, all that, and we spend some time in meditation. Now, to the extent I am able to withdraw, to that extent my meditation will be steady. But if I am not able to withdraw properly because of some attachment, the mind will keep going there. So the effort will be to bring it back again and again. Here we are talking about people who are very intense in their seeking, that they are able to withdraw the mind because their fascination for that is gone now, the world. Like we are not fascinated anymore by childhood toys, our mind withdraws. There is no thought of any attraction or any revulsion. In that way, no thought of attraction or revulsion troubles the person towards the world. So the person is able to withdraw the mind. That's why it says Akritva Drishya Vilayam. And the world literally disappears from the person's experience. Like how it disappears when we go from waking to dream, we don't experience anything of the physical world. We create our own dream world. And from dream to deep sleep, even that world goes, the dream world. Which means that only when I identify with the body, I see the waking state. Only when I identify with the mind, I can see the dream state. When I withdraw my attention from body, mind and intellect, I don't see anything. In the deep sleep, that's what happens. But here in Vedanta, we say that same thing has to be done. But the second point is Ajñātva Tattvam Atmanaha. With the mind which is withdrawn, if I have had the knowledge of the self in terms of intellectual clarity through listening and reflection, then I can steadily contemplate on that self. So the mind which is withdrawn is engaged in contemplation on the self. So on one hand, the mind is not troubled by the worldly desires and extrovertedness. It doesn't run out. On the other hand, it steadily contemplates, I am Brahman. So it negates its false identification and identifies with the true self. And so we find that these two are very crucial. Ability to withdraw the mind, and second, contemplate steadily. If these two are not done, aparokshanubhav will not happen. And this aparokshanubhav is that which is the state of liberation, the state of freedom, the state of abidance, direct experience of the self. And hence these two are very, very important. So whether I am doing japa or puja or bhajan or any sadhana, breath observation, actually what I am trying to do, withdraw the mind, train the mind to be introverted, train the mind to let go of any fascination that we have for the external. So in the state of samadhi, the world actually disappears, and it's not a deep sleep state. It is a state where one consciously experiences that I am without any medium. One experiences that self. So that is samadhi. Now that is the state which can happen only when complete withdrawal happens. And that withdrawal is possible by effort. By cultivating those fourfold qualifications, it's possible. It is not something which is... So a seeker will not be scared of it. It is not that the person will not be able to do anything else after that, will behave in a weird way in the world. No. Behave more maturely, centered in love, centered in happiness. All insecurity, fear, anxiety, ego, all that is gone. So the life becomes much more inspiring. And the person has woken up to the self. Finally, that's the aparokshanubhav. To get that aparokshanubhav, this is important. Akritva drishya vilayam ajñātva tattvam atmanaha. That what is Atman? Exactly one has to know that. Not have any vague understanding or misunderstanding. Hence study and reflection. Brahma shabdai kuto muktihi. By simply saying Brahman, mukti matra phalai rana. So this is the indication by the teacher that if you want the answers to the question that you have given, you will have to be able to understand intellectually as well as have the ability in the mind to withdraw from everything which is perceptible. Akritva drishya vilayam. Drishya means whatever is seen. Seen meaning anything that is perceptible through the senses, seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, touching. You know, in this process, what is most subtle to withdraw from? What we see is very easy to withdraw from. You close the eyes, the objects are gone. But what is... close the mouth, so no speaking is happening. So these two are easy. I am not touching anything, so touch also is easy. I am sitting quietly in contemplation, not touching anything. So seeing, tasting, touching, and to an extent smell also is easy to withdraw from, because I am not going around actively smelling anything. If at all there is some whatever fragrance because of any agarbatti or anything, then that. Otherwise there is nothing to smell. These four are easy to withdraw from. What is not easy to withdraw from is the sound. Because the sound is the subtlest aspect which keeps the mind engaged. And the senses are engaged. So we get easily disturbed also because of sound. But even that one can withdraw from. Where one doesn't even recognize what is happening around, fully the mind has withdrawn. Like how in deep sleep it happens to us, we don't recognize the sound. But then if something happens very loud, then immediately we wake up with a jerk. But that is sometimes. When we are in that deep sleep state, we are withdrawn. So sound is the last one to go. Everything else goes step by step and is easier to withdraw from. So even that sound goes, and that is about the external perception. The word drishya is not just for the external world which is perceived. It is also the internal world which is perceived. But this has to happen step by step. So first, all that which is seen in the world outside, that disappears. How? So when I use a support system, whether it is a breath observation or a mantra japa or visualization, I'm using a support to engage the mind to become single pointed. I'm withdrawing from everything that is seen in the world outside, seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, touching, moving, grasping, everything withdrawn. So all the senses are withdrawn. Like the tortoise example, withdraw all the senses. Tortoise will withdraw out of will or out of a sense of danger, that something dangerous is happening, withdraw. A spiritual seeker will withdraw because there is no interest left in the world out there, and one wants to know the self, so one withdraws. Now, one is to withdraw from that external. Then one has to withdraw from the memories, the internal thoughts, memories, desires, emotions that arise, and the fanciful imaginations that arise. These also one has to withdraw from. Otherwise, we withdraw from the world outside, that also many times is not complete. And then we withdraw, then we are not able to withdraw from the world inside. So some memory, some thought, some emotion, that keeps coming again and again. If it keeps coming again and again, not to suppress it, but we need to identify why this is coming and sort it out later. Something in the daily life needs some correction, adjustment, or some thought attitude has to change. I can do all that later. For that moment, when we say contemplation, we have to train the mind saying that nothing else is important right now except this. So let go of everything else. Only focus on the self. Then the Drishya Vilaya has happened. So we have done, so the mind has withdrawn from the gross world, mind has withdrawn from the subtle world. How to withdraw from causal world? Vasanas are anyway unmanifest, they will not manifest till they manifest as the desires in the intellect. And I am withdrawing from the desires, etc., because I am withdrawing from subtle world. Ignorance of the self is also part of causal world. So when I learn to drop the notion that I am ignorant, it is not that I am ignorant and now I am going to become knowledgeable. That's the quality of the mind, to think like that, and that's also because in the world it is like that. Any objective science is like that. I don't know physics, now I'm studying the book of physics, now I come to know physics. But this is not an objective science, this is a subjective experience of I am, which is there every moment. And hence, like Ramana Maharshi said, the greatest obstacle to knowledge of the self is the notion that I am ignorant. Because who is ignorant is this jiva who is identifying with the BMI. But who is the jiva? When we ask that question, who am I? We realize that I am that pure consciousness already. What I am seeking, I already am. Then why I am not experiencing? Because I don't know. So ignorance is the cause. To drop that notion that I am ignorant. As a contemplative student, one says I am Brahman. One doesn't entertain the notion that I am ignorant. When the mind has withdrawn fully from all the three, gross world which we perceive, subtle world like the thoughts and memories, and this notion that I am ignorant, then Drishya Vilayam has happened fully. And through steady contemplation, one wakes up to that self. That's the method of direct experience. Now simply if I say Ham Brahmasmi, Brahman, 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 nothing happens. Only one will get familiar with that word, and maybe that whatever punya is there of chanting, that much will arise. So he continues this thought further by giving another example. 64th one. Akritva shatru samharam agatva khila bhushriyam rajahamiti shabdannaha raja bhavitum arhati. It says akritva shatru samharam, without eliminating the enemies, agatva akhila bhushriyam, and without bringing the entire land under one's control, Rajaham iti shabdanna Raja bhavitum arhati. Simply by saying I am the king, I am the king, I am the king, one doesn't become a king. One has to destroy the enemies, conquer the enemies. Akritva shatru samharam. Agatva akhila bhushriyam. And without bringing the land in one's control. So this example is externally, yes, easy to understand that how one has to do both these aspects. If one is wanting to be an emperor or a king, if one has done both these, actually one doesn't even have to say I am the king, because people will know by default you are the king. And without doing these two, even if I keep proclaiming I am the king, nobody will bother. So in the same way, when we apply in the spiritual realm, akritva shatru samharam, without eliminating the shatrus. Now what is a shatru here? Mala, Vikshepa, Avarana. These are the shatrus, three. The 6 impurities of the mind, they are called Shadripus. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. 6 impurities. Then Vikshepa, wandering of the mind. And Avarana, ignorance which is veiling the self. Without eliminating these, simply saying I am Brahman, nothing will happen. So even when I study Vedanta, the first step to understand is that Mala has to go. If mind is plagued with all the 6 impurities, steady contemplation is just not possible. Hence the importance of Karma Yoga, selflessness, higher purpose. That is Shatru Samhar. 6 enemies have to be eliminated. Then the importance of Upasana, single pointedness, to do japa, so that the mind stops wandering. Otherwise it wanders in all directions. Giving a support system, invoking surrender by identifying with the Lord as the highest. So the Upasana method is to remove the Vikshepa. And then the knowledge method, the Shravan Manan Nididhyasan, is to remove the ignorance. This is Shatru Samhar. Agatva Akhila Bhushriyam. Without bringing the land under one's control, meaning without understanding the true nature of the self, one will not have the direct experience. Just by saying Raja, I am the king, and telling everybody, that I am the king, one doesn't become the king. One has to be able to put that effort. So now, having said these two things, now another analogy comes here, and which is a treasure which is hidden. It's the 65th verse. You know the tune which is there for Yakundendu Tushara Hara Dhavala? That is the tune for this one. Apto tim khananam tatho parishila dyutkarshanam svikritim nikshepa samapekshate nahi bahihi shabdaistu nirgacchati tadvad brahma vidopadesha manana dhyanadibhirlabhyate maya karya tirohitam swamamalam tatvam naduryuktibhihi. So here what is the meaning of this one? Apta uktim khananam. So if there is a treasure which is hidden, one has to dig, khananam. Tatha upari shiladi utkarshanam. All that rock, etc. which are there, which are covering that, has to be extracted, they have to be removed. Nikshepa samapekshate, and they have to be thrown. Nahi bahi shabdaistu nirgacchati. Simply by saying there is a treasure, the treasure will not reveal. One has to put hard work, dig the earth, remove the coverings, throw away the stones, etc. Tadvad Brahmavid Upadesha. In that same way, What is the digging that has to be done? The digging has to be to eliminate ignorance. I have to listen to the knower of the self, Brahmavid Upadesha. The Guru, as we had said earlier, the Guru who is Brahmavid, to, to that Guru one approaches and seeks the knowledge. And the Upadesha that the teacher gives, what should one do? One is listening to that Upadesh, then Manana Dhyanadi Bhirlabhyate. Reflect on it and contemplate. Maya Karya Tirohitam. Why? Because just like those stones are covering the treasure, the Maya as though is covering our true self. Swam, that true self which is our nature. Amalam, which is pure. Tattvam, which is our essence. So our essential self is covered as though by Maya and it is not known to us. Na duryuktibihi. By simply using some fallacious logic, one is not going to be able to realize the self. One has to put this effort, where one has to dig. So one has to dig. Now that analogy of treasure is very nice. The treasure is already present. So if one has found out that treasure is present in this area, so one knows it is there. Now one has to just dig and figure out that where is it. And once the digging is done, all that which was covering that has to be thrown out, has to be removed. Then the treasure comes. It is not production of a new treasure. It is already there. It is unveiling and removing all the obstacles to it. So in our own personality, the core of our personality is the self, which is already existing. So we are not seeking something new. So when people say, how can you seek something unknown? It is not unknown. It is not recognized right now. It is the known only. It is that because of which everything else is known. Only that I don't know that that is me. That's why it is aparoksha. It is immediate experience. You know, everything else which is immediate experience takes a little time also. Like even for example, suppose we wake up from sleep, suddenly we wake up from sleep. It may take a few moments for us to sometimes realize who I am and where I am. Why? Because I'm using a medium. But even at that point, to know that I am, that is not going, that doesn't require effort. I am, that is always known. Who I am as an individual in this world, what is my empirical personality, that takes a little time sometimes. When I just wake up out of a shock or suddenly I hear something which is happened outside and just wake up. Then it may take a little bit of time because it's immediate knowledge. But immediate knowledge will never go because no medium is required for it. Because that's my true nature. Now, if we understand these aspects, so many false notions that go around, we can be free from those and free from the confusions arising out of those. So when somebody says that, what is the use of studying the scripture? They talk about something which is very abstract, which is not experienceable. Who has experienced this? We don't focus on scripture, we focus on what we experience. What we experience is so limited in terms of individuality. Till we come to Vedanta or a teacher who guides us, we don't even know the difference between immediate and immediate. That the self is immediate, rest of it is all mediate. We don't know that there is one self which is indestructible, which never becomes absent. One doesn't know that. So scripture is not something which is written thousands of years back, which is irrelevant, or which is just some, make-believe stories, or some kind of impractical ideas that we have to reject the scripture and seek somewhere else. So the treasure is right here in our heart. The scripture is only telling us to dig. So once I understand it is my own true self, the scripture is only a means. Then one can put aside the means and start digging. But at least I should know where to dig and that the treasure is there or not. How will I know that? The scripture will tell us and it turns our attention. What is the scripture going to do? It is like a mirror where I see myself. So when I see myself, then I understand, okay, this is how the look is, this is how the, if there's some black mark or something, I can remove that, I can decorate myself. So many things can be done when I see a mirror. In the same way that there is a self within, that is my true nature. The scripture is only turning the attention and giving us the methods to turn the attention and methods to tune up. Rest of it we have to do by our effort. So it's a map. So that's why he says here, Aptoktim Khananam. Apta, the word Apta means the Veda. Apta Uktim means the declaration of the Vedas. So using the declaration of the Vedas, one digs deep within. Now the process of digging is also nice. The process of digging is to, the hard stone, etc. One digs. Slowly that breaks. And then the softer mud and all will be, which is there down there. And then throw the whole thing out. In the same way, using the scriptural declaration, one hits hard. One digs properly. So the rigidity, the attachment, the false notion, those which are their strong ones, they have to be broken first and removed. Then that soft mud which is there, all that which, those are our deeper ignorance, wandering of the mind, some of those will be removed after that. So Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya, first eliminate, then Vikshepa eliminate, then the ignorance goes and the treasure reveals. When the treasure reveals, one starts seeing. It's not that suddenly treasure reveals. One sees. Okay, now here is, let us say it's a box or it's a pot, whatever it is. One gets a glimpse, oh, this is what it is. And when one gets that glimpse, one digs more with more intensity because one has found, oh, this is the treasure, it's here. Same way as one practices, the mind learns to withdraw. To the extent it learns to withdraw and to the extent it becomes single pointed in the upasana or in contemplation, to that extent it will experience joy. Swam, what was said, na? Swam amalam. One's own nature which is pure. That reveals. One gets a glimpse, oh, that's what this is. Then one digs more intensely. And the process of withdrawal becomes more easy. And the beauty is that this treasure which is lying below is not dirtied. It was just buried, covered by mud, stones, all that. When the stones, etc. are removed, the treasure has not become dirty. Yes, some mud may be there. One has to just wash it, but it has not become impure. In the same way, how much ever impurity the mind may have, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya, it does not touch the self. The treasure in us is Swam Amalam. It is pure. It is not that now that self has become polluted, corrupted. No, untouched, unaffected. Swam Amalam Tattvam. And this Tattva is realized only when we do this whole process. That having cultivated fourfold qualifications, go to the teacher. Listen to the scripture, Apta Uktim. Listen to the Upadesh. Determine the essence, ki yes, I am Brahman. Reflect upon it and then contemplate steadily. If we simply say treasure come out, it will not come out. If we simply use some fallacious logic to say that there is no such self, only body is, there is nothing else. If we understand this one personality, everything else is understood. Understanding the self, everything else is understood. And the existence of the self has to be understood, not the body and mind and intellect. A BMI, if we understand, yes, we may be able to transact better in the world. We may be able to understand with, tune up with a few more people. But we have to understand the life principle, the consciousness. That who is this, what is this consciousness? And to understand that, the scriptures are a valid means. So a false logic that there is no self, what is the point of thinking of the self? Just focus on what exists right now. Mind can focus on what exists right now. How will it go to that deeper aspects? That there is a self and I am not the mind. The difficulty is this only, the equipment which is used. You see, the example of treasure has a limitation. The equipment that is used to dig, that equipment helps to destroy the whatever, the stones and the rock and all that, to break it, to cut it and all that, and then we lift the stones, everything, and throw away. Equipment is different and the stones, etc., are different. Here it is the same equipment and same stone. Meaning the mind also, the mind and intellect is the equipment. The mind and intellect only is the stone, is the impurity. So I am using the same equipment as though, like saying that it is using stone to dig the stone. It is like that. I am using the same mind to dig this mind, and I have to ultimately drop this mind itself. That equipment itself has to be thrown away, to be dropped, because that only is covering it. Hence the difficulty is that if I get stuck only in the mind and trying to understand the mind, no doubt I have to understand it to rise above it, but that's not the ultimate aspect. Hence one has to listen to what the scripture says, because they have time tested this knowledge. So when the scripture says that our nature is Brahman, there is an existence, and it gives logic, it gives experiential proofs. Then using those, go to a teacher. Why cannot I just study Apta Uktim, what the scripture says? Why can't I just use that and realize? It won't happen, because the intuitive understanding arises only when ego surrenders. And I need the altar of surrender. It can be Ishvara, it can be Guru, any of these. Hence it says Brahmavid Upadesha. The guidance of a teacher, the Upadesha, the advice of a teacher established in the truth, is a very important aspect. What will take us, let us say, many lives in the presence of the teacher will take few minutes or even few days. That's all. The impact of the presence of a teacher is unimaginable. Because the experience of the teacher and the compassion of the teacher, etc., are a great source of strength to the student. And so it is said, Brahmavid Upadesha. And then following that is our own self-effort. But the listening has to happen, because the heart is touched only by those words which are backed with purity and power. The power is there in those words because of the purity. The mind is pure, the establishment in the self has happened. The person knows and speaks from conviction. You know, Kabir Das ji, when he went to study in a school, after a few days, he left the school. So the parents were very disturbed. So Kabir Das said, don't worry, what was required, that I have taken. Two alphabets I have learned, they are very important. They are Ra and Ma, Ram. Rest of it I have left out, because that's The essence is only Ram. Everything else is essenceless. And he did his sadhana. And he realized the self. He used to speak. Dohas of Kabir Das are very famous. So many people are inspired. And he took up so many social causes. And he, using his dohas, he criticized those wrong aspects. He brought about a change. Many things he did. So in his talks, sometimes many people would come. The scholars in that area became very insecure. That in our talks, we have studied the Vedas, we have studied the Upanishad, we have studied the scriptures, and when we are talking, they are not coming. And he has not studied any of these. And he is just, a so-called saint, and people are just going there. He would never condemn the scriptures, nor he would say there's not required, etc. So one day these scholars, they went to Kabir Das ji, and they asked him that, frankly, we want to know what is your secret. We have studied much more than you. We are much more eloquent than you. Yet why is it that the crowd flocks to you? Kabir Das is a very simple point. He said, आप पुस्तक लिखी पढ़ाते हो, मैं नैना देखी सुनाता हूँ. You are teaching what is written in the scriptures, no doubt. But I am telling what I am experiencing. Not that Kabir Das ji did not study the scriptures. In that depth he did not study, no doubt. But he also had a guru. He also took mantra diksha. He also did the sadhana. He also did the japa. What all is written in the scripture he did. And he experienced. And his speech was from that experience. And that's the power of the word which comes out of a master. How Kabir Das ji took Diksha also is very inspiring. Because he said, my guru, people will not give me because I am a weaver, I am a low caste person. That caste system, misinterpreted caste system was very strong and powerful that time. So he said, this great saint Swami Ramanand, he went and he lied down. Early morning, Swami Ramanand comes for taking bath in the Ganga. He lied down on the steps. It's dark. Ramanand does not see. Swami Ramanand did not see that. So he lied down there. And when the master came down and his foot touched, he realized, here I have stepped on some person. So immediately he says, Ram. And Kabir Das ji got the Diksha. He got up and he prostrated and he said that, I am blessed that you have given this Diksha. So he said, where did I give you Diksha? He said, you touched me and you said Ram. And Swami Ramanand also understood the intensity and beautiful relationship they had. So the point is that the teacher is very, very crucial. Apta Uktim Khananam and Tadvat Brahmavida Upadesha Manana. Take the Upadesh from Brahmavid. In Bhakti Marg also they have a lot of people emphasize this Brahma Sambandh. And the teacher has to initiate the student into the Brahma Sambandh. What it means actually is this, the Advaitic meaning is this, that through a teacher get initiated into the knowledge of Brahman and then reflect and contemplate and realize that I am that pure consciousness. So Tadvat Brahmavidopadesha Manana Dhyanadibhir Labhyate. Maya Karya Tirohitam. So the self is not to be produced, it is Tirohita, it is covered. It has just to be uncovered. Maya Karya Tirohitam Swam Amalam Tatvam Na Duryuktibihi. No amount of perverted logic will help a person to realize the self. So for today we will stop here. Any questions? You are welcome to ask.
Namaste Swamiji.
Haji.
This current verse that we are doing, it's what it's trying to say is that that uh, you should do Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana, right?
Yes.
That is what I am understanding from it. So that Tattva Vidopadesha stands for Shravana, Manana is Manana, and Dhyana is Nididhyasana.
Yes, the example is giving both these aspects. One is that you must, just like the treasure is there, it is covered, in the same way self is there, it is covered. And the effort to uncover it is Shravan Mana Nididhyasana.
Okay, thank you.
But by implication, the Shravan Mana Nididhyasana precedes, Shravan Mana Nididhyasana is preceded by Karma Yoga and Upasana.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Swamiji, I have a question.
Haji.
We have been, in all these verses, we have been seeing the preparatory and the direct means, right? So
Yes.
whatever sadhana we are doing, how do we know whether we are on the right path?
Those methods which are given earlier, that how much vivek has increased, how much vairagya has increased, how the mind is able to withdraw. The single most important factor is what we just did in today's class, that how effectively I am able to withdraw from the world, and my craving for the world has reduced, and my devotion for the Lord has increased. My contemplation on the self has become more steady. Those are the criteria to know how much have I progressed. Because if my mind is not withdrawn from, if the mind has not developed enough dispassion and detachment, it will not be able to withdraw. So to that extent, I'm able to withdraw the mind in contemplation and be steady in contemplation on the self or in devotion to the Lord. To that extent, I have evolved. Because it requires sense mastery, it requires single pointedness, it requires selflessness. All that will come together. So those are the criteria.
Hari Om.
Yeah. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru
Hari Om. Hari Om.